Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melissa Caprio.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. It's Wednesday, my favorite day of the week. I love doing my show. I hope you guys are doing well. I have a super exciting show today. I have guest Rachel Varitimos, and she is an astrology magic wielder. So I'm excited to talk to her because I have to say that since probably the last, I don't know, 5, 6 months, I would say, I've been diving more and more into astrology, and I've been watching a lot of YouTubes and following some astrologers. So it's really fascinating to me about what's going on astrologically and how that's showing up in our own personal lives and how that's showing up in the world. So I'm really, really interested in this. And she's going to join me in just a couple of minutes. Now, to my regulars, thank you so much for joining me. I love having you each week. It means the world to me. And if you're new to my show, I want to say welcome. Thank you for being here. Just so you know, you can listen to any of my shows anytime you want on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. There's always a description of who I have on my show because I would say 99.99% of the time I have a guest because I love talking to other people and see the work they're doing. I talk to myself all the time, so I don't really want to talk to myself for the hour that I have when I'm here with you. I'd much rather talk to other interesting people. And there's always a description of my guests, and I have like amazing guests on my show who are doing such beautiful work in the world, and I love highlighting that. And a little bit about me for those of you who don't know, I am a photographer, I'm an artist. I have a book, and it's titled Postcards to the Universe: Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And I photographed people's manifesting postcards. And when their manifestation showed up in the reality, I shared their story. And there's 30 of those in the book. And I'm thinking about actually releasing a second edition to the book because I can't believe it's already been 5 years. And I updated all the photographs, which is really cool. And I'm talking to the publisher now about what that's going to look like going forward. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. But if you want to know what a manifesting postcard is, go to postcardstotheuniverse.com. You'll find how to create a manifesting postcard and the address to send it. But just so you know in your mind, it's sort of like a vision board. It's just I have them scale it down to, instead of creating a big vision board with everything that you want to bring into your life, let's focus on one thing at a time. Let's put all our energy into that postcard. Let's send it out into the world. And when I receive it, I photograph it. I intuitively photograph it by what the postcard looks like, what the affirmations are, what you're saying, what you want. And, when it shows up, as long as you're doing the work, it will show up and you're focused on it, then we can share your story. So I hope you're interested. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. You can find me on social media or email me. People do all the time. I help them when they get stuck on how to create a postcard because I like people to set a space and really, set the intention for what it is that they want to create because I think that's important because everything is energy, right? We're all energy. Our thoughts are energy. Our feelings are energy. So that is really where we want to be. And I just use postcards and art as a tool to manifest that energy. All right, so let me get to my guest today, Rachel Varitimos. Her name is not easy for me. So, Varitimos is an evolutionary astrologer who empowers individuals to reconnect with their authentic selves. She utilizes astrology to guide clients on a journey of personal healing and growth, emphasizing its ability to unlock potential rather than define limitations. Rachel teaches how aligning with astrological principles can enhance natural strengths and awaken psychic abilities. Rachel offers astrology as a steady hand during life's transitions. supporting bold change and surrender through difficult times. This approach cultivates daily awareness, enabling intentional, which I love this, co creation with the universe. Rachel provides astrological readings, coaching, and memberships to assist clients in uncovering their gifts, clarifying their life path, fostering self acceptance, and integrating their shadow selves for powerful transformation. And Rachel is offering a 7 days of joy activation, which she will tell us about towards the end of the show. Welcome, Rachel. Thanks so much for being here with me.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you because I love that you're talking about co-creating with the universe and you're working with astrology, the astrology to do that. And me, I'm working with the postcards and the creative energy of art to do that. So tell me now how you got into astrology and how you found that, because I read your really long description about your background and everything, and I know that it was something that once you discovered, it changed your whole life. So I'm just going to let you share your story with us.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving me that space. So I'm obsessed with astrology because I've been on a personal development healing journey since I was 9 years old. If anyone can relate, like when I was a child, I had a lot of anxiety. I didn't feel like I fit in, and I spent a lot of my life just trying to figure out what was wrong with me and trying everything I possibly could to figure out what was wrong with me and how to make it right. I was even obese when I was a kid, had no friends. So like I started my personal development journey begging my parents to let me go to a weight loss camp. And that was my first transformation, but it was very superficial. It was very mental. It was very, I actually got more of an eating disorder from going to the weight loss camp. It was almost like, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate with this, like you heal one thing or you think you heal one thing, but you heal it very superficially. And then it kind of just goes into another area or just like shifts into another thing now you have to heal. Like you heal one anxiety and it shows up somewhere else. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I remember.
Exactly. That happens all the time, right? You're like, oh, I thought now this has come up. Now I have to, now I have to address this, right? Yep. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. And so like I just was going on a like crazy healing journey. First it started with food in my body. I spent 16 years studying the shit out of nutrition, trying to find food freedom. I just wanted like the actual healing, the deep healing that lasted, where I felt free. I even got my degree in nutrition in college and all these different things until I hit this rock bottom and feeling like nothing would ever work. And I just gave up on all of my research and I just started eating when I was hungry and stopping when I was full. And I remember that was the first time in my life I found freedom because I wasn't trying to solve a problem. I kind of just surrendered to what my body was telling me to do.
Right.
And then I finally normalized that a body weight that previously was so hard for me to maintain. And I was maintaining it without even thinking about it now, like no stress. And so it took me like 20 years to heal that, my relationship with food. So fast forward to me finding astrology. When I found astrology, it was probably 10 years after I healed my relationship with food. It was after I was attending a bunch of women's retreats. I was trying to heal my relationship with women and a lot of my social anxiety. And I really lacked self-love. Like I had healed the food thing, but the self-love was not there. I didn't think I could have friends. And through going to those women's retreats, I ended up hearing about this astrologer that all of these women had gone to. And I meet with the astrologer. And because I had been going to so many retreats at the time, everything in me wanted to host a retreat. But I had never hosted a retreat before. I had no clients. I was just making women friends for the first time. So who was I to host a retreat? Who would come? But I get this reading with this astrologer that everyone's telling me about, and she tells me about my South Node, which for everyone, your South Node in your birth chart is your past life. And basically the way she described my South Node or my past life made it sound like I had hosted retreats before in past lives, the way she described it. And I took what she said and I was like, well, you're saying if I've hosted retreats before and I really want to host one now, that it could work. And so I decided to just lean on the astrology, give myself permission. I asked my mom if I could put a house on her credit card to book a retreat because I didn't have a credit card at the time.
Wow. Okay.
I know. She was very kind. And she said yes, and I ended up filling the whole retreat in 1 month with 14 people. And it went so well. It's like I did do it in past lives.
Well, that tells me that you were in alignment too, because that's what happens when you're in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. You don't have to fight hard to do it, right? Things just kind of align for you and it works out for your best interest because that's what you're meant to do. And that's where you're putting all of your vibrational energy. So I'm not surprised that even though you never did it in this life, let's say before, that when you made the decision, it happened in a month. That doesn't surprise me at all. At all.
Totally. And for me, astrology now is like my biggest permission slip. Like I
love
probably,
that.
I would have sat on that for probably years and never hosted a retreat until it was the right time, until I met enough people. But and this is how I use astrology to this day, because it confirmed what I already felt and it confirmed my intuition. This is why I say astrology can make you more psychic the more you follow it. It went like exactly like you said, in a month, I had more belief. It's like I could go fully into it because of that permission slip. So then that turned into me hosting 6 retreats in 2 years, getting deeper into astrology then changing my life in so many other ways, like healed deep abandonment wounds I had because things would pop up. I learned astrology, so I learned to look at the astrology, and then I knew exactly how to navigate it. Like a challenge popped up, instead of me resisting it, I was like, oh, this is supposed to happen right now. How can I learn the lesson? And so it just became my guidepost for either confirming my intuition or helping me self-reflect when shit hit the fan. Sorry if I can't swear.
You can swear. That's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So like it helps me then navigate when shit hit the fan. It helps me surrender and find the lesson. And that skyrocketed my evolution, because then I started healing things through deep surrender instead of control, which, I think a lot of us struggle with control, especially when we need certain things to happen, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's pretty much my story. And I just got deeper and deeper into using astrology until, like, to me, I just walk around outside now and I can see people's charts playing out inside them. It's like everything's become magical almost, because I can always connect it to astrology.
Oh, I love that. So, yeah, so I've always, kind of knew a little bit about astrology growing up, and I would always read. I'm a Gemini, by the way, so I would always read, for Gemini. But then over a few years ago, I discovered that I'm a double Leo. I have a Leo rising and a Leo moon. And now I'm understanding why, when people say, oh, you're not like a typical Gemini, or you're not like a typical this or that, because there's so many other aspects of our chart that have influences. Like my Venus is in Taurus, right? So there's certain things about me. And so now what I'm starting to learn, and by the way, my South node is Virgo and my North node is Pisces.
So you're in your nodal return right now.
Yeah. So, because I think you're younger than me. What's your South node?
My South node's in Gemini.
Okay, yeah. So because there's a group, you come in as a group, right? Like wherever yeah. So the year you were born, if anybody's listening and wants to look up what does that mean and all that stuff. So, but now what I'm starting to understand is I'm starting to understand from following and reading the houses where things fall. Like that to me is, I don't understand yet. And of course the degrees, I have no idea the degrees. All I know is 29 is a crisis degree and 0 is like the start of the new.
You know a lot. Good. You know quite a bit.
Oh, good. So, well, Gemini brain, right? Geminis have to know. We have to know a little bit about everything. So I'm diving deeper into it. So, what is your sign? Just for anybody listening who's interested, what's your sun sign?
I'm a Taurus sun. So you probably really resonate with me since you have a Venus in Taurus. You love Taurus themes. Taurus brings you pleasure. I'm sure you like
Yes.
nature and comforts and
Yes.
luxury things.
Oh yeah, in my house, everybody who comes in my home loves it because it's so cozy, because it has to be. It's my retreat. I've made it my little sanctuary. So I like the comforts of home, but then I have my Gemini air social sign, that wants that I want to go out and I want to socialize, but then I want to retreat, and my Leo tapping into the creativity. So it's really interesting to learn about your signs, but what I also find interesting, and that's what we'll get into, how you help your clients, is when certain signs or certain planets are aspecting certain signs at certain times, it can affect if you're having, let's say, relationship problems or health issues or money issues, right? So that's how you're using people's signs to help guide them, right? Like if I'm a client and I say, Rachel, I just can't hold a job, and I can't keep money, and I have such a problem and I'm always struggling. And then you would look at my sign and you would look for those aspects where money is showing up in my chart, right? To help guide me.
Totally. And I'm
Okay.
a little different from some other astrologers.
Okay.
Like some astrologers are really big into just like predicting and telling you what's going to happen, and and I'm not that way. I am very much that your chart and the astrology is living and breathing every single day, and there's limitless possibilities for any combination in the astrology. And so therefore it's not so much about predicting, it's about, okay, how can we look at the psychology behind this and what's going on inside of you, and what the astrology is asking for you to learn the lesson, like how we can help you learn the lesson, like how we can dig deeper into you to see what the block is based on what I'm seeing in the sky.
Okay.
So
that's interesting. Go ahead.
It's much more about being present with the astrology and evolving with the astrology. I do predict, I will give people energetic currents in a way where I'm like, for example, right now I've had a client for the last 5-6 months. She's a Sagittarius, and we were about to go into a Mars retrograde. I'm sure a lot of people felt it like the first 2 months of the year, even December through February, you might have felt slower, like it was harder to get things done, like there was some breaks being put on. And so I could bring up that energy for her, but then I told her what the cosmos were asking her, which for her it was to be more connected to her emotions and her truth and to be less mental. And so we came up with an actual, a plan for her where she started focusing on a new self-concept of, her self-concept was, I stay connected to my truth and it brings me to my highest timeline. Because before, previously, it was so scary for her to speak her truth. And that's why she was so mental. She always played these mental games. She has to say things the right way. But we had her start just saying her truth, and silly things like she'd say to her husband, I'm going to go to the spa. That would freak her out to tell her husband she was going to go do that. We all have our things. But she started saying it, right? She started saying it because of what I saw was in the astrology. And after a couple months, it started to feel really safe. Now she's feels safe to just tell her husband she's going to the spa, because she learned when that feeling comes up, she just learned how to navigate her feelings instead of making it very mental because we saw what was in the chart, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. I really, really, it's fascinating the way that you're approaching it. Because I know you help with your clients how they can, say somebody is very lost and they don't know what they want to do and what their gifts are, and you help people understand their gifts through their birth chart. So can you explain what that would sort of look like? I mean, in as easy of a way as you can. It's kind of hard when you're not looking at anything specifically. So we're just generalizing here. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So when I look at someone's gifts in their birth chart, I like to look at their south node a lot, because your south node, the house that your south node's in, which is the area of life, you've mastered, and then the sign your South Node is in is the energy, the archetype you've mastered in previous lifetimes.
Okay.
And so I always look at the archetype people have mastered in previous lifetimes by looking at their South Node. The thing is about the South Node is it's also the place where we're overdone, where we're a little wounded. And so often a lot of people's gifts come online the more they evolve in their chart. So like, for example, yeah. So I imagine you said you have a Virgo South Node, you're a Leo rising. I imagine that you have your South Node in Virgo in the second house. So that tells me you spent many lifetimes being in service to make money, or working a lot of jobs to make money, or were you a very busy worker when you were younger, or like working a very perfectionistic worker, or you could have been very into health, and you could have based your self-worth on how you looked and how perfect you made things, and getting really like mastering something, mastering a skill. Does that resonate?
Yeah, that all sounds right. Yes. That sounds right. And I've had past life readings where I have actually been in service to others in past lives. So interesting that you said that.
Yeah, and so like it's where someone has that it's like they're wise. They're like a wise old man there. I also look at people's Jupiter, because wherever people's Jupiter are, that is where they gain the most growth, luck, expansion, wealth, abundance. I always say, when in doubt, lean on your Jupiter sign. So like if your Jupiter is in Leo, then if you're in doubt in your life and things aren't going well, then you lean into Leo themes like fun and joy and hobbies and play and drama and romance and creativity.
So my Jupiter actually is in Virgo.
Okay, so for you, like when in doubt, actually, a lot of people don't know this, that the highest expression of Virgo is being in a very deep mind-body connection. So for Jupiter and Virgo, it's like when in doubt, go take a yoga class, do something that connects the mind and the body. It's like when in doubt, work on perfecting your craft, but from a place of feeling, from a place of not overthinking. So Jupiter and Virgo can definitely overthink sometimes, but that's part of where it grows. It grows out of the overthinking and into being more in flow with service. Like you're a Leo rising with a Leo moon, so I could see someone with like a Jupiter Virgo, if you play guitar, for example, like going to play guitar to get grounded again for like several hours. Because Virgo wants to master something. It wants to perfect something.
Interesting. That makes sense.
I also did one more
because when I need to feel grounded or better, that I'll do that. I'll just do some yoga, because I used to take yoga a lot, but now I don't go out to classes anymore. I do it here because I have a row machine or whatever. So I'll just go and I'll just do some yoga. Like I'll do a whole routine to kind of get myself back grounded. Yeah. So I'm not surprised. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I also, this is a really fascinating one that I really like, is I also look at people's 12th house. So everyone has a 12th house in their birth chart, and that's the part of their birth chart that represents their unconscious. It's karmic patterns. It's also where like self-sabotaging behavior is. But the cool thing about the 12th house is the more you get familiar with your 12th house, which I help people do during readings, the more you can become aware of what your patterns are, where you like sabotage yourself or where you go unconscious. And when you heal those unconscious parts of you, they unlock hidden gifts that have been hidden to you, hidden to your family, potentially even hidden to humanity. And so the 12th house is a really cool part of people's birth charts as well that I like to go into. It's kind of like if you think,
I don't think a lot of people would know that. You know what I mean? Because people are thinking, like, tell me about my sun sign. Tell me about, my moon sign. And, like, that's it. But, yeah, okay, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say a lot of people, like, if you think about, like, the Buddha. I feel like the Buddha had some sort of story where I think he was a rich boy. Like the Buddha grew up really wealthy, and his father gave him everything. And so his karma was he ended up really resenting the wealth and hating everything. And he ended up leaving his father and deciding to be homeless, I guess, for a really long time. And then he figured out, like, oh my God, being homeless isn't it either my whole life. It was just the same pattern, but opposite, like a 12th house unconscious pattern. And what ended up happening was through him being fully rich and being sick of that, and then being fully poor and being sick of that, he finally surrendered and was like, I'm just going to be. And that's when he surrendered that's when he had all the gifts of the Buddha. It's very similar kind of the story that I just told where I was on it's like I was on a nutrition healing journey for a long time. And it was once I was like, F it, I can't study this anymore. And I surrendered and I started listening to my body that a gift came online for me. I could like intuitively connect. So that's the 12th house.
Oh, that's so interesting. So mine is, because I have a little cheat sheet that I looked at, is my natal black moon Lilith is in the 12th house. That's what I have in the 12th house.
Oh, wow. So you have black moon Lilith there. So that makes you
and Cancer. Yeah.
That makes you a very good nurturer, actually. But you might be rejected for how you nurture. Because
interesting.
Only because Lilith can get rejected because you're so intuitive and in your truth, and sometimes you'll try to nurture someone in some way, and they could resist it. But also, here's the other thing: is that accurate for you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the wounded. I seem to have used to attract the wounded that I needed to nurture. Yep, and end up getting resisted. Yeah,
Yeah, and so the thing with like that, it's almost like the divine mother archetype you come into as you heal the Lilith and Cancer in the 12th house. It's kind of like the mother who knows what the kid needs, but the kid like clearly just needs space. And so you just speak your truth to the kid and then let the kid have a temper tantrum and be in your power and know that like you could trust yourself kind of type thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes sense, and I'm actually becoming much better at that as the older I get. This is really interesting. All right, Rachel, stay tuned, and everybody stay tuned. We're going to take our break here, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
Hi, I'm Melissa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on Om Times Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, Creating the Life You Crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives. Hi, and welcome back. If you're just joining me, I'm speaking with Rachel Varitimos. She is an astrologer, but she's more than just an astrologer. She helps people. How would you describe yourself, like if in a one sentence? Because you're not just an astrologer. You don't just do people's astrology charts, which is what a lot of people go to astrologers for.
Yeah, I help people align with their deeper truth and heal the deeper aspects of themselves using astrology.
Okay, yeah, that's very helpful, and I feel like that the more we know about our own astrology and our birth chart, the more we can understand ourselves. Don't you think?
Totally. I literally learn new things about myself every single day because I'm going into my chart every day. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think that people miss? What the biggest misconception that people have about astrology that you encounter?
Hmm. Um, I really do think it's partly the charlatan predictive part and how people use it to like just tell people who they are without having a co-creative conversation.
Yeah.
I think that in some ways astrology can be used to disempower people. And because it doesn't, because people are they're just telling you who you are. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not a big fan of a lot of astrology apps. Like when I first got into astrology, before I got into the empowering side of astrology, I remember I would read certain things on apps, and the things they would say, I would be like, this is why my boyfriend's going to break up with me, or this is why I'm never going to have this. You know what I'm saying? And so I think a misconception is that you read a horoscope, you read like a reading someone gave you, and you take it as gospel without realizing that everyone's birth chart has limitless possibilities, and you are not that just like one aspect of it. When people give a reading, they're just like each archetype, for example, each zodiac sign has limitless ways it shows up. It has a low expression, it has a high expression, and it has all the expressions in between. And so it's really unfair when we have these like certain stereotypes we put on people, or we just give a reading and it doesn't involve a co-creative experience with someone for them to reflect and say how it resonates in their life. So yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception is people think it's just horoscopes and readings that people are projecting onto people.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so much deeper and more complicated than that. That's why people say, "Oh, you don't seem like a Virgo because you're so disorganized." And you're just like, "But there's so much more." You know what I mean? Like, okay, like I'm a Gemini, my mother's a Gemini, my nephew's a Gemini, a couple of my exes were Geminis, my brother-in-law's a Gemini, and we couldn't all be different if we tried because of all of the complexity of each of our charts, right? It's so much deeper than that. So I've seen that, and I've kind of known that for a long time. And now that I'm understanding the chart, the astrology better, it's helping me understand myself and others better, and also truthfully what's going on in the world collectively. I mean, you must be fascinated by what the astrology is doing right now and how the planets
Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you think it's showing up as expected with all the shakeups and everything?
I will say I always know what the upcoming astrology is going to be, and I always try to guess. And then when I watch it unfold, I'm always like, wow, that's how it's going to show up.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you heard of the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama?
I have heard of the drama. I don't know much about it except she accused him of sexual misappropriation or sexual harassment, and then he's accusing her of trying to take over the movie they did, and and all that kind of stuff. And now I know they're sort of at war right now. That's about as much as I know.
Totally. So I knew that we were going to come into some massive collective shakeup between like the summer of 2024 and obviously now through the next 20 years, but specifically these next 3 years. And I knew that there was going to be a break free from the old way of doing things. Like the old systems were going to crumble. The old people that were in hierarchies, like the old governmental systems or the news or like the hierarchical systems that are set up were going to crumble and new things were going to come in. But I didn't know how. And so one of the astrology transits that was going on that I knew was going to like lead to it was this transit that happened back in August. If anyone can remember August 24, I'm sure it was a tough month for a lot of people. That's actually when this drama started. And it's when we had Jupiter and Gemini. So Jupiter expands what it touches, and Gemini is the news. Gemini is communication. It's, like the news outlets and stuff. And when it was in a challenging aspect of Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is our old structures. And Pisces dissolves old structures. It confuses things. It causes confusion. So I knew leading into August, I was being very careful not to use the correct words and to not misinterpret things, because with that aspect, people can misinterpret things and get confused. There could be a lot of fake news out there that you find out was false. Like that's how that plays out. That's when the Justin and Blake drama started. That's when she started going. Yeah, so she started going, like promoting that movie that this drama was about. And then it became a he said, she said thing, and all this false information was getting brought around. That's how it got to how as big as it is now. And what happened was Blake Lively brought the New York Times in, and the New York Times ended up being part of this like scandal kind of. And and so that aspect happened in August, and it happened again in December, and that's when the New York Times article came out. And so it's you can see these aspects continuously playing out. When the New York Times article came out in December, everyone hated Justin because they thought that he was a sexual harasser, and then it came out all the weeks later that Blake had no evidence, and Justin had 400 pages of text messages and evidence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did hear that. Now that you're saying that, I remember that. Yeah, but okay. Oh, my Lord.
So the New York Times looks really bad. And so now the New York Times are in a big lawsuit, and it's becoming like this worldwide thing where people are like, I can't trust the mainstream media. And so that's what back to what I was saying, all these big hierarchical organizations are going to come crumbling down. That's what I've been watching. I'm like, wow, I never would think the New York Times would be put on blast like this. Yeah,
well, it is happening in a big way. The Washington Post and mainstream media now is, not reporting all the news, or there's misreporting, and it is all playing out on a global scale, and it's interesting if you can. I try anyway to take a step back and I follow this astrologer who I think you should look. I don't know if you know her, Pam Gregory. And I think you will like her because she's on YouTube, because she doesn't do astrology the normal way. She looks for the much more ethereal, spiritual to the astrology, and she has amazing guests on. And she talks about looking at the world from an eagle's perch. Like, be aware, but don't get yourself engaged because it brings our vibration down, right? And she talks about all these wonderful and exciting. If you listen to her, you're like, oh my God, this is great. What's happening right now, even though it's painful to watch, it's great because the world is changing. We're growing we're having a major conscious upgrade, energetic upgrade right now. So it's interesting. And she uses astrology. So I think you would resonate with her.
Yeah, well, that's Pluto in Aquarius. It's breaking free from these old hierarchical structures and bringing power back to the people. So that's one of the reasons I have been focusing on the Justin and Blake case, not because I care about their drama, but because what's fascinating to me is that it's the people who are feeling gaslit by all of the news media And so when you see it from a higher perspective, you see that the people are rising and the people are realizing that they're stronger together. And I've seen a lot of like the right and the left come together over this. Like it's really interesting. It's almost like it's making people see how important it is for like truth and authenticity and to share information from a higher perspective on a global scale. Because that's what Pluto Aquarius is doing, is it's having us see we didn't need to be in competition with each other. We didn't need to climb the ladder and get above other people. And that actually our power comes from returning back to our authentic truth and being there for one another.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I had recently heard that the astrological, where the astrology is right now on the planets, is very similar or close in degrees of how it was during the French Revolution when they overthrew the kingdom. And so there's a very revolutionary energy that's playing out again, right? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. And I didn't know, which you obviously know, I just thought eclipses like are cool, like it's like an eclipse, and I know there's like energy around it, but I didn't know how powerful the eclipses were and what that means. Can you talk a little bit about, because we just had 2 eclipses this past month?
Yeah, so eclipses are karmic portals. What happens during an eclipse is karmic destiny. These things were always meant to happen. And right now, the North Node's in Pisces and the South Node's in Virgo. Those are the nodes of the moon, and that determines where the eclipses are going to happen. So we had our first Virgo eclipse this last month. And basically what's happening is Virgo, the South Node during an eclipse is what we're shedding away. And Virgo on the South Node is the day-to-day, our day-to-day lifestyle. How we've always gone about organizing our day-to-day routines. And so think about, you go turn on the news in the morning. Well, if that news is gone, your day-to-day, if that's not how you get the news anymore, it's shedding away. And the North Node is in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac wheel. It is karmic endings. It dissolves things in order for new beginnings to emerge after it. And so as we're shedding our day-to-day, we're stepping into the unknown collectively with these eclipses. Every time we have an eclipse around this axis these next 18 months, we're going to be shedding our day-to-day and stepping more into the unknown of building this new future. And it's almost like we're feeling our way karmically through towards this new earth.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, look at all people who are losing jobs or changing jobs or moving or changing locations. It is like there's so much change and shift and stir ups and so much energy right now. I mean, I can feel it. I'm super sensitive to the energies. I can feel it. I imagine you can too. The energy, how intense the energy is right now.
Oh yeah, I have a Pisces moon. I'm very sensitive to this energy. I can very much feel it. I was going to say the other eclipse we had this month too was the last Aries eclipse. So the last 2 years we had Aries Libra eclipses. So a lot of people could have shed relationships and really chosen themselves. That's what was happening the last 2 years. You're going into a karmic relationship rebalancing, where before we were too focused on other people. We were too focused on keeping the peace. We were too focused on being a little superficial with keeping the peace. And so the last 2 years was about moving into what do I want? Who am I? And this eclipse that we just had this past weekend actually was this closing out of that chapter, and it's pushing you forward, and it's okay, now go create your new identity. So that's also what happened this past month, is there's this activation of you dreaming up who you're going to be in this new earth.
Let me ask you this question. You talked about the eclipse. Did you say was in Libra or Aries? What did you say the one was when your the last 2 years relationships ending or changing relationships? Libra?
Yeah, it was Libra and Aries. So we just had the final partial Aries solar eclipse this past weekend. The Virgo Pisces one was early this month. Now we're not going to have any more in Aries and Libra.
Okay, so can it show up in unhealthy ways where the shadow is representing? Because I'm seeing from just some people, like some lower vibrational energies of people who are shaking up relationships, but not in an evolved, healthy way, in a victim mentality, blaming, unhealthy, almost abusive way. Are you seeing that? Is that like a shadow side to that?
That is such a good insight because what happened this weekend is when we had this Aries eclipse, the planet Neptune. So Neptune is this planet that causes confusion and delusion. If you want to associate narcissists with Neptune, you can on the low vibration because they can delude you and manipulate you and gaslight you. Like that's all Neptune. But Neptune's also spirituality and what you can dream up and the limitless possibilities. So there's two sides to it. So when the Aries eclipse just happened, Neptune moved on to Aries. That's a big deal because Neptune only moves signs like every 12 years or so. And so this is like a new chapter for the collective. And when Neptune moves on to Aries, Aries is the sign of the self. We can start to be people can act, the self can start to be a little manipulative and narcissistic, and that's actually going to get checked in May when Saturn moves into Aries. So we're kind of in this like dreaming up the new you, and some people are going to dream up the new you right now in a really toxic way, and others are going to dream up the new you in more of a positive, limitless ways. But regardless, when Saturn, which puts boundaries around things, moves into Aries in May, it's going to start putting boundaries around however people are dreaming themselves up. So if people are doing narcissistic, low vibe things, they'll get checked when Saturn moves into Aries.
Thank you, because I am seeing both of those ways played out. So that's why I wanted to ask you, because I'm noticing it, just in environments around, and I'm just like, that's really interesting. I'm seeing some things that I've never seen before. So just made me question, and we're around the eclipse, and now you just confirmed it for me. I love that.
Yeah.
So Rachel, if I'm listening and I'm like, oh, I really like her, I want to work with her, what does that look like? Like if I want to work with you?
So you can go to my website, and I need someone to book a reading with me first. I also do one-on-one coaching, but if people want to do one-on-one coaching, I require a reading first because it helps me get to know the person, see if our birth charts fit and all that jazz. But yeah, you could either book a 30, 75-minute reading with me, and then after that, if you want to go deeper and use astrology to really like deeply excavate yourself and deeply connect to your truth and deeply align with the highest expression of your birth chart over a period of time, I do one-on-one coaching for that.
And a coaching relationship, do you have like, some coaches that I've had on my show, they have like a 12-week coaching thing or a 6-month. Is yours over a year because you're going through a whole year of somebody's birth chart? Like, how do you like to work with somebody on with that if they want to go deeper and really understand their chart and how it shows up day to day for them?
I do 6 months minimum, just because I feel like that gives enough time for people to go deep into themselves. I tend to give people transformations that are very deep. So sometimes I keep going with people after 6 months, but sometimes I suggest people like integrate everything we talked about because of, in a nutshell, a lot of the transformations I get people are very equivalent to things that would happen over 10 years. Because it's a lot of self, you know what I'm saying? And so 6 months minimum, but I do work with people continuously. Like I work with plenty of people for a year plus too.
Okay. No, that's good. I would think so, because just from knowing a little bit more now about astrology, it is so layered, it is so deep that I just don't see how you could work with somebody for, you have to have some time there for people to kind of understand it and start to see how it shows up in their life. And like, how can, any of us listening use the daily astrology right now to sort of figure out like what's going on? Like, what are some things that us lay people can do on a regular basis? Like,
This is This is my
Go
favorite
ahead.
thing to talk about, because this is like,
Okay.
if you don't want to work with an astrologer, like if you don't want to work with me, you
Right.
just want to be on your own and do your own thing, this is the best way you can use astrology. And like,
Okay.
this will increase your psychic senses. It will bring more awareness to yourself in your life. Is go on YouTube and listen to certain astrologers and their forecast for the week. But when they tell you the forecast for the week, don't take it as this is exactly what's going to happen in the week. And also, I wouldn't say go to all astrologers, because like I said, some astrologers are very predictive and more fluffy, and they're not going to give you how to navigate it. But you can go to an astrologer like me. You can go to an astrologer, I'm sure, like the one you mentioned, or like some others, and take what they say and just use it as your awareness for the week, not to control your life. Like, never use astrology. Someone says something horrible is going to happen that week. Never use astrology to control your life. That's not the point of it. You're not here to prevent what's happening, but use it to be like, oh, this happened. I knew it was going to happen. How can I navigate this with the most grace and not resist it and see it from the highest perspective? So I think it's really good to just get an idea of what the energy is for a week and look out for it in your life. Start to use it to make meaning out of your own life and how it showed up in your life and how you want to learn the lesson, as opposed to just expecting it's going to happen. You know, sometimes when I see astrologers being like, you're going to have a big money breakthrough this week, and then I have people be like, thank God. And then it doesn't happen, and they're sad and they don't believe in astrology. I'm like, yeah, well, there was an opportunity for you to look for that breakthrough.
It's an opportunity. That's what I learned. The astrology shows when we are best aligned with what's going on astrologically for certain opportunities or to deal with certain challenges. That's what's happening. So doesn't mean that if your money house is lit up and everything is really great and, the stars are aligning, you're going to win the lotto. But there is a chance you're more likely to find a revenue stream that maybe you didn't have before, right? Like, that's kind of how it works. And like, for example, we're in Mercury retrograde right now, right? We're in Mercury retrograde. Everybody's like, oh, you can't do that. It's Mercury retrograde. You can't do that. It's Mercury retrograde. I happen to like Mercury retrogrades because I go back and rework things and rethink things and get rid of things and renegotiate things. So for me, I don't really, I'll have some technical issues here and there, but other than that, it's not really a big deal for me. Like, some people, oh, you can't get married on a retrograde. You can't buy a new car on a retrograde. I'm like, well, if you say that and you think that, then yeah, you're putting that out there, You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a guide. You're the creator. That's like exactly what you're saying. And I think sometimes we forget that when we hear horoscopes. We're like, oh, it's just going to happen. I have no power.
Exactly. It's just that the energies are stronger for certain things at those aspects. And like I said, I'm learning now more about the degrees. So can just really quickly, why does it go from 0 to 29 and then 0? Why doesn't it go after 29? I'm just so curious about that.
Well, it is 30 degrees. It's just that when the 0th degree is included.
Okay.
And so it's like that's the transition over, because like it's like the 0 degree is included, and that makes it 30 degrees when you go to the 29th, if that makes sense. Because you're including the 0.
It kind of makes sense, but then I'm just curious why it stops there at 30 degrees. Like, why doesn't it go like 60 degrees, or like, it just confuses me a little. I need to know more about that, because I'll hear things like, well, if your Gemini falls closer to the 1, 2, 3, 4 degree, you're going to feel this more than if you're at 28 degrees. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. So it's math, actually. Okay. So like a circle is 360 degrees, right?
Okay. So
and there's 12 there's 12 zodiac signs. So you divide 360 by the 12.
Okay. I was bad at math. So there you go. Well, Rachel, we only have a couple of minutes. So you have a 7 days of joy activation. So why don't you read, because we're on radio, and I'll share the link in the bio, for people to go who are listening, but where they can reach out to you and do and connect with you.
Yeah. So This 7-day of joy challenge I have, it is personal development work combined with astrology. And the personal development work I do is called self-concept work. Because in my experience, when you view yourself as a joyful person, for example, because this is the Activate Your Joy challenge, when you like constantly remind yourself you're a joyful person, your brain over time starts to look for ways you're a joyful person. And it was actually the way, right? It was like actually the way I healed my inner child, because I was kind of a boring, serious person most of my life. And so I'm a joyful person. The more I follow my joy, the more everything in my life works out. And eventually I just found that's how I became an astrologer, partially, is because I was following the little fun things by saying that to myself. And then I used that in combination with my birth chart. So in the Joy Challenge, I teach you how to access joy in your birth chart. So I teach you how to navigate your birth chart so you can understand what's fun for you. So you can combine that with the self-concept I help you make to activate your joy.
I'll share the link, guys, in the bio so you can check it out. Thank you so much, Rachel. It was such a delight having you today. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.